a look at a local coffee shop here in Fort Collins, along with an update on the CSU Mountain Campus.
Then, we'll take a look at COVID case numbers CSU has reported and an update on high school football.
All this and more on CTV, starting now. Good evening, Rams. I'm Ren Wadsworth.
And I'm Jen Platero. We have an exciting show for you tonight. Let's get right into it.
With the recent move to fully online school at the University of Boulder, some may wonder if Colorado State is the next. But one team at CSU meets every day to come up with new ways of testing students at Colorado State University for coronavirus to ensure they can finish their semester out in person.
A team was already being assembled to test students for coronavirus. The team involved on-campus experts and faculty scientists from CSU that developed a targeted monitoring program for a rapid response to the virus. As the semester progressed, so does their testing. Multiple dorms' wastewater has been tested for COVID, and a temporary quarantine dorm has been created for students as well as housing in local hotels.
And we've been instituting testing in response to dorm signal. As a result, we've been able to identify several hundred people that were completely asymptomatic and would not have otherwise been identified, and put them in quarantine so that we can reduce the spread. And I think that's one of the big reasons why CSU has been able to go this long while staying open.
But Pitcoke says they aren't stopping yet, and the team devised spit tests instead of the common nasal swab test for COVID. Testing will also likely be expanded to other groups who live in close quarters like sorority and fraternity houses. Whatever the future may hold, Colorado State University students and faculty can breathe a little easier knowing there is a team of professionals keeping the virus in check every day. Ren Wadsworth, CTV, Channel 11.
Testing will be held every day, and you will be notified via email or call if you are considered a high-risk student that they recommend gets tested.
As of May 2020, CSU has a total of 468 confirmed COVID cases, reaffirming there are no single COVID-19 outbreaks and has never had an outbreak of that size. Recently, multiple outlets have mistakenly reported there's a COVID-19 outbreak at Colorado State University, citing misleading data from the state. Sources such as Fox News Denver has gone as far as having a live reporter on campus talking about these misleading outbreaks.
Now, the Rams here, CSU, dealing with all this up here in Fort Collins. More than 300 cases spiking here on the CSU campus. Here's what's happening out here right now in Fort Collins this morning. Testing for students has been ongoing here on the CSU campus for some time, just like at CU in Boulder. And over the past week, there has been 375 confirmed COVID cases here among students here on the Fort Collins campus.
This information results from a change in the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment made this week, which in turn makes CSU cases appear differently. The university and state are working collectively towards correcting these numbers. Reporter for CBS Denver, Dylan Thomas, fights these mistaken reports by tweeting how CSU keeps its COVID rates at approximately 1% through their wastewater testing. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment have combined all single cases and outbreaks associated with the university to allow for more accuracy and efficiency in case investigation and reporting.
Update on the status of the Mountain Campus and the Cameron Peak fire. Although most of the forest and land around the Colorado State Mountain Campus was badly burned by the fire, no structures on the 1,600-acre campus was harmed. This is largely due to the mitigation measures and fire crews' efforts. And while the campus may no longer be nestled in foliage, for now it's still standing for students at CSU to use for decades to come.
Have you noticed how difficult it has been to breathe in the fresh air quality lately? So have the scientists here at Colorado State University. Smokes from the wildfires have been burning from the west, leaving behind aerosol particles that can be harmful to human health. These particles play a role in how heat is absorbed or reflected by the atmosphere. Associate Department of Chemistry in the CSU College of Natural Sciences and her colleagues have been able to detect the rate these particles actually leave the atmosphere. To see the variance in sizes of these particles, researchers use an ultra-high sensitive aerosol spectrometer. According to Farmer, when a particle is emitted into the atmosphere, the amount of time it hangs out in the air depends on the removal process. The longer particles persist in the atmosphere, the higher the likelihood these particles have to spread. New data suggests that there is a large amount of aerosol particles in the air that are making it much more harmful for human health. This work demonstrates how field measurement is impactful and technologically advancing.
Last week I talked about how Colorado has adopted Cabrini Day in favor of Columbus Day, and it seems that the rest of the United States may not be following suit just yet. The White House has issued an official proclamation on the status of Columbus Day. In the proclamation, President Donald Trump says, "Sadly, in recent years, radical activists have sought to undermine Christopher Columbus's legacy. These extremists seek to replace discussion of his vast contributions with talk of failings, his discoveries with atrocities, and his achievement with transgressions. Rather than learn from our history, this radical ideology and its adherents seek to revise it, deprive it of any splendor, and mark as inherently sinister. They seek to squash any dissent from their orthodoxy. We might not give into these tactics or consent to such a bleak view of our history. We must teach future generations about our storied heritage, starting with the protection of monuments to our intrepid heroes like Columbus." He goes on to say that Columbus should be remarked as a hero and issued an executive order that any individual or group found vandalizing or destroying a federal monument is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This proclamation coming this close to the polls very well may help or hinder Trump's chances in the polls. We'll keep you updated on any developments.
Modifications have been made at the Student Disability Center due to COVID-19 related concerns for students who have been compromised immune systems. They have the option to go online entirely. Students are required to work closely with their advisors in order to register for the courses that satisfy their program requirements. Financial support is also provided to students with disabilities affected by this pandemic. For students who have any further questions regarding Student Disability Center, they can call the Student Disabilities Office, where they will be directed to a specialist and will be provided with answers.
It's flu season, and many health experts are pushing for you to get your flu shot this year. Luckily, Colorado State is offering immunizations again this year. Flu shots are a covered benefit in the CSU Health Plan, but even if you're not a part of it, you can still get a flu shot at CSU Medical Center off of College. Usually, the Health and Medical Center are able to take in walk-in appointments, but due to the new regulations, it is required you make an appointment, which can be done by calling the CSU Health Network's number at 970-491-7172. And for more information about the flu and immunizations, you can visit health.colostate.edu.
At the final budget hearing, 2,000 public commentators voiced their concerns about equity funding initiatives in the 2021 Fort Collins budget. Commentators asked the city to set up a legal defense fund to support the immigrant community and their families. According to a 2016 report from the American Immigration Council, only 37% of all immigrants secure legal representation. Several speakers spoke on struggles of representation for their family members who have lost large quantities of money to unreliable attorneys and having their families torn apart through deportations. While a network of immigrant legal defense funds have expanded in recent years in Denver, Mayor Pro Tem Kristen Steffens asked staff to look into whether the city could support such services.
Sustainability has always been one of Colorado State University's staples, and that hasn't changed as the school acquires a hydrogen fuel station. The station was created in preparation for the future development of fuel cell electric vehicles. While it is open to the public, the station will be maintained by the Colorado State Energy Institution. At the hydrogen station, students will train in hydrogen technology while allowing researchers to gather data that may help in building new stations in the near future.
Convalescent plasma has been approved by the Food and Drug Administration as a way to treat COVID-19. Colorado State's Infectious Disease Research Center is currently studying antibodies and the potential effects on patients infected by the disease. Researchers believe convalescent plasma can prevent COVID-19 from spreading, or at the very least continuously spreading, through a process called aspheresis. Antibodies are used from individuals who have recovered from COVID-19. After screening the convalescent plasma, it is then transferred into the patients, which aids in boosting their immune system. Convalescent plasma is to be distributed in the U.S. and used by healthcare providers to treat patients who have COVID-19.
Now, Robbie has a package for us, actually, a little bit more about the COVID-19 cases that are happening at CSU.
COVID-19 continues to be the focus of many here at CSU during the 2020 fall semester. The pandemic preparedness team is hard at work to ensure the safety of the community, and it shows in their latest changes made on campus. Last week saw many updates regarding CSU's response to COVID-19. Wastewater data from residence halls suggests that there are still unidentified cases on campus. Every week, more and more students are required to get tested for the virus. However, this method has not been the most efficient. Executive Director for the CSU Health Network, Lori Lynn, who also acts as a co-chair for the pandemic preparedness team, expressed some complications with the traditional nasal swab test.
Nasal swab is a process that, one, is very time intensive to collect and process, but also it's a cost factor. It's an expensive test, so it limits the number of people that we can test at any one time.
As a response to these concerns, CSU started administering the saliva-based test for students. Lynn stated, moving to the saliva-based test will provide the pandemic preparedness team with a larger surveillance, able to test up to 1,000 students a day, as opposed to the usual 300 to 400 with the nasal swab.
Now, we'll be moving to primarily the saliva test, and then anyone needing a follow-up test will do the nasal swab.
While more students are being tested every week, more positive cases are also surfacing. This has resulted in CSU's quarantine and isolation hall to fill up on students. To continue housing infected students, CSU began a contract with the Best Western University Inn on South College Avenue. Newly positive COVID students have been transferred there and will carry out the rest of their quarantine until they can be transferred back. Now that these changes are being implemented, the question remains, what will next semester look like? Lori Lynn believes that all the extent to which CSU is enforcing public health safety protocols, returning back for next semester is a high possibility, but only time will tell.
Well, that's all the hard-hitting news we have for you tonight, Rams.
But don't go anywhere because Jenna Barrow is coming up after the break with tonight's entertainment scoop.